Hello and welcome to another episode of VoiceBox. My name is Andrew and usually I'm joined by my co-presenter Julian, but I don't know where he is today. So we'll just get on with the show. Today we are going to be talking about volunteer organisations and volunteers in Mongolia. And if Julian was here, he would be able to explain why this is so significant for us.
Sorry. Well, Andrew, as you know, we're both volunteers here in Mongolia. I'm with the Australian Youth Ambassadors for Development, or AYAD, and
I am with the VSO, or Voluntary Services Overseas, to give it its full name. Now, you may have already realised that a volunteer is a person who volunteers to share their skills or work on community development projects in a country. These can be for long-term or short-term, and they can work at home or abroad. Being a volunteer is a great way to get to know the country you are working in and develop a tight working relationship with the people of that place.
that's exactly right. In our case, we had the opportunity of working with the wonderful people here at Mongolian National Broadcast, and of course the people at ESPF. But not all volunteers get to work in television.
No, not at all. I consider ourselves quite special.
Yeah, you're special, Andrew.
Ah, thank you, Julian. It's a nice thing to say. So anyway, to understand volunteering more and have a look at other volunteers and the work they do, we decided to go and visit some of the major volunteer organisations here in Mongolia.
And to kick it all off, we're going to start with the Australian Youth Ambassadors for Development.
Yeah.
And I'm working as an AYAD here at the Mongolian National Modern Art Gallery. Like most other AYADs, I live in Ulaanbaatar.
You don't roll no more. Dreamt last night. Oh Lord, I was there.
The collection that forms the basis for the Mongolian National Modern Art Gallery was originally part of the Fine Arts Museum. In the early 1990s, that collection came into this institution and we became a separate entity focusing on modern Mongolian art. Our earliest artwork dates from 1921, and the story of modern Mongolian art is one of foreign materials, oils and canvas, foreign art styles being incorporated into a local context.
Dreamt last night, oh Lord, I was there. Saw the acorn stream roll around.
Prior to the late 19th century and early 20th century, art in Mongolia was primarily practiced by Buddhist monks in monasteries. These were mineral pigment works on cloth that depicted religious deities. After the socialist revolution in the early 1920s, Mongolia became increasingly closed to a lot of the world. However, they developed alongside the Soviet Union, and many Russian artists and Russian art educators came into Mongolia and introduced foreign materials, foreign art styles and techniques, and Mongolian artists gradually learned these, and they learnt them very quickly. In the 1980s, just as the Soviet Union began to collapse and open up to the world, so in Mongolia did a pro-democracy movement gain momentum, so that by the late 80s and then into 1990 and 1991, Mongolia eventually became democracy. This period was very interesting in terms of Mongolian art. Artists started painting a lot more individualistic sort of themes, personal expressions. The move to a market economy, however, meant that artists could very rarely afford to buy paintbrushes and art-making materials. Art museums, really their budgets were cut significantly and really could only support the status quo of their collections rather than develop new exhibitions. Critical art history and journals and the broader infrastructure for art didn't really develop during that period. However, artists were now free to paint whatever subjects they liked. There were no more taboos, really. They could, topics, for example, like Chinggis Khan, which were discouraged under the socialist regime, were now explored in great detail by artists.
Roll on, babe, don't you roll so slow when the wheel don't turn. You won't roll no more.
My role here at the gallery is as an arts educator. I'm helping staff at the Arts Education Centre develop their education programs which have been running since 2003. There are 4 key ideas that I'd like to inject into their public program planning. The first is arts education as part of audience development. Just as the broader museum world has become aware that they have more than just their collections to look after, they must also target specific groups, service audiences. Arts education has become an important way to attract people to the gallery who might not ordinarily come. Art galleries are sometimes considered exclusive places which are unfamiliar and intimidating. If children come to the gallery when they're young, they're more likely to come when they're adults. So arts education programs are very important for that. The second key idea is inquiry or critical style of learning. So this is where children are not just taught the meaning of artworks, but are actually prompted with questions so that they look closely at artworks and learn to read them and engage with them at a more critical level. We're also attempting to connect arts education with curriculum. So this is asking teachers what they're studying, teaching in the classrooms, and trying to create programs which complement what the children are studying. The third key idea is related to the idea of an expanded role for arts and artists as part of community development. There's a really wonderful quote by an American museum theorist who says that museums and galleries are a safe place for unsafe ideas. So this is the idea that artworks can be a platform for discussing contemporary issues, for debating social inequalities, for celebrating certain things. And then the final 4th point that I'd like to contribute is the development of public programs. So not just targeting schools and school children, but other segments of the community, business people, disadvantaged children, disabled people, developing special programs that will bring them into the gallery, like directors' tours or special workshops, films, trying to bring in multi-sensory experiences, so music and poetry, which can make for even more effective learning. Tonight is the opening of the 2009 Best Artworks of the Year exhibition. This is a very exciting exhibition for the gallery because the artworks will be judged over the next 2 weeks and a selected few will be acquired by the gallery and become part of its permanent collection. There are about 130 artworks in the exhibition, representing about 80 artists.